down at the river's edge. On March 4th, this evidence led responders to primarily focus search efforts on the Siletz River. Investigators continue to pursue leads by interviewing, investigating, and following up on community tips. Throughout this investigation and search, our teams utilized additional personnel with specialized training and equipment. During the search and investigation, diver Juan Herita with Angels Recovery Dive Team connected with Dane family. Using information provided by our team and with the help of a local river guide, Juan began his search. On March 11th, at approximately 11:13 a.m., Juan located a small child in the river downstream of where officials had paused their search. Multiple sheriff's office responders, including the Marine team that was actively searching the river, responded to the scene immediately. After confirming the child was Dane Paulsen and ensuring his family was notified, our office then notified the community and media. The Lincoln County Medical Examiner's Office was notified and responded to the scene. They transported Dane to the State Medical Examiner's Office, where an autopsy was completed on March 12th. Results from this autopsy confirmed Dane's cause of death was drowning. There was no evidence that indicated additional trauma to his body. At this time, no criminal charges have been filed regarding the death of Dane Paulsen. The investigation is ongoing. As is standard with all death investigations, the Sheriff's Office is working in coordination with the Lincoln County District Attorney's Office to review this case in its entirety. Now that I've shared a high-level overview of the investigation and search operations, I invite Sheriff Shanks to share his statement.
Good afternoon. I am Sheriff Adam Shanks. Thank you again for joining us during this incredibly tough time. Dane's disappearance has been absolutely heartbreaking. Recovering his body has given his family some closure and answers, but I know the grief and processing of this tragedy is ongoing and will be overwhelmingly difficult. Support for the search for Dane has been far-reaching to include responders and volunteers from all over Oregon and even other states. In a moment, Sergeant Nick Vale will share some additional details about search operations and procedures, but first I would like to share more about how Dane was found. Dane was found in the Siletz River approximately 2 miles downstream from the family's property. This area of river had been surface searched several times by multiple watercraft operated by our first responders as well as community volunteers. Daily boat operations continued through the day Dane was found. Additionally, our initial dive operations were conducted over a 2-day period on March 3rd and 4th, 2 days after Dane's disappearance. 22 divers from multiple sheriff's offices and search and rescue teams had searched an approximate 2-mile stretch of the Siletz River, beginning from the property where Dane went missing, moving downstream. These areas were determined to be the highest probability areas, meaning they were deemed the most likely place Dane would be found based on several factors such as river height, flow and speed of current, the time and body composition. On March 11, 2025, Juan Herita with Angels Recovery Dive Team arrived on scene as a volunteer to assist in the search for Dane. Sheriff's Office personnel briefed Juan's boat operator, a local river guide, on the areas divers had already searched. Using this information, the river guide escorted Juan onto the river, where he began searching areas downstream from where divers had thoroughly combed. Juan located Dane underwater approximately 3 miles from the point of his disappearance. We're very grateful for Juan's assistance in locating Dane. We're also incredibly grateful for our community's continued support and service throughout this response. Demonstrating their commitment and care for our community, partnering agencies and community volunteers dedicated their time and resources to helping bring Dane home. I will now invite Sergeant Nick Vale to provide some further details on investigations and search operations.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Vale. Over the last 2 weeks, I shared in the immense responsibility of leading the investigation and search teams involved in the emergency response in this tragedy. As a leader of the search for Dane, I can tell you that our teams and our community, and indeed a good portion of our nation, are deeply saddened by the profound loss of Dane's life. Missing persons cases can be complex, involving large areas, entire states, different jurisdictions, tangled webs of circumstances surrounding the disappearance. The responsibility for investigating any missing person is immense within our office. But when the missing person is a 2-year-old boy like Dane, and when the terrain involves rugged coastal valleys like ours, and the circumstances are more complicated. To meet the needs of a moment such as this, our office quickly transitioned to provide for 24-hour search and investigation operations. Utilizing our administrative team, our patrol and investigative divisions, our marine and community services divisions, our emergency management team, our sheriff's mounted posse, and not least the Lincoln County Search and Rescue Team. We mobilized our partner resources, including the FBI, police departments of the City of Newport, Lincoln City, multiple divisions of the Oregon State Police, Silletts Valley Fire, Mary's Peak Search and Rescue, the Corvallis Mountain Rescue Unit, Region 3 Canine, and the Sheriff's Offices of Benton County, Clackamas County, Coos County, Crook County, Lane County, Multnomah County, and Tillamook counties. Hundreds of emergent volunteers also participated from within and outside of our Lincoln County community, including local river guides with expert knowledge of the Celeste River. We're humbled by the servant spirit displayed by each of these partners. They traveled from their communities to help find a missing piece of ours as they searched, logging nearly 700 miles on foot and covering extensive lengths along the Celeste River. Detectives combed through hundreds of community tips, from in-person contacts and social media contacts, messages, and posts. Law enforcement conducted hundreds of interviews, including those of Dane's family and members of this community. Investigators continue to finalize documentation in the preparation of this case for review by the Lincoln County District Attorney's Office, which is a standard practice in all death investigations. Resolved as we were to find Dane, our investigation and the evidence available all pointed to the Celeste River. River searches such as this are dynamic, rapidly evolving, and dangerous for all parties involved. Complications such as water temperature, the speed of a current, fixed or moving debris influence search operations on a continuous basis. Further variables, such as the size of a body, the length of submersion, and clothing worn, all impact the timeline that a person may resurface. In this case, we utilized multiple water resources, including surface water searchers, water scent canines, aerial and underwater drones, underwater sonar, and divers to plan daily search operations on bringing Dane home to his family. On the day of March 11th, Dane was located in about 8 feet of water in the Celeste River by Juan Heredia of the Angels Recovery Dive Team. He was about 1 mile from our most recent dive operation. Juan is the embodiment of the same spirit of service that has humbled us over our 10-day operation. His compassion for others, his willingness to give of himself to our community, is what helped bring closure to Dane's family. On behalf of the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, the investigations and search teams, and our community, I offer our sincerest gratitude. Thank you all for helping to bring Dane home.
Thank you, Sergeant Vail, for that information. And thank you, media partners that were able to submit questions. We are committed to keeping you informed and respecting the sensitivity of our family and our community as continue to navigate this painful time. We have a few minutes to address questions that were submitted. After we conclude this briefing, we will plan to follow on remaining questions and share supplemental information. Question I've got. There have been many questions about whether there's criminal activity or if Dane's parents have been cleared of any charges. Can you tell us more?
We're working in nation with the District Attorney's Office to review the case. And is a standard investigation.
Sorry, can we get the answer again? Just while it's not your fault at all. I just want to make sure.
As I said, there are no charges have been filed in this case at this point. We're reviewing the case with the District Attorney's Office, and that is a standard practice within any death investigation.
How were search areas prioritized and what determined how far divers searched the river?
Information surrounding Dane's disappearance, the evidence found through the search and investigation efforts, and then also we utilized the recommendation of a book called Lost Person Behavior by Robert Kester. It's a manual that helps guide and rescue operations depending on the categories and situations that a person finds themselves in. Search operations remain dynamic, and the areas that we focus on adapt based on what you find as you go.
In addition to seeing information on community pages about Dane being located, we've heard there was a 911 call before the Sheriff's Office released this information. Why wasn't this information immediately available?
As with any unattended death, there are certain things we need to do before we make publicly available information. Most importantly is to confirm who is deceased, and then also to attempt to notify next of kin to confirm that they don't find out through media rather than through a more controlled environment to allow them some privacy and peace.
Is there an after-action review and report on this search, especially considering its size and complexity?
Yes. Every search and rescue operation includes some level of after-action review. The more complex, often the more complex the review becomes. The attempt in doing so is to update ourselves on our application of best practices, possibly update best practices, and to see what we can learn from what we've experienced to make the next situation better.
Is there anything the community can do to help the family?
Information shared from our teams, from the family, is that they would like to have some privacy. They ask that we respect their space, and that they have been offered resources through the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and local resources as well.
Are there any planned memorial services or gatherings for community members to attend?
At this time, we don't have any specific details on planned services or gatherings. Our communities have been consistent, reliable in supporting the family in that way since the beginning of this. There are some community groups who are accepting donations and preparing for more.
I've got this one. If there are and developments, how will we be notified? We will continue to share significant developments through our Flash Alert and Facebook pages. We will also be following up on additional questions received from our media partners following this press briefing and sharing supplemental information as it is available. Our media briefing for today. Thank you for your assistance and support throughout the search and investigation. you to our community members and everyone that continues to show empathy as the family and our community process this tragedy. For more information and updates, please continue to follow our Flash Alert page, Flash Alert /LCSO. Thank you.
Sorry, my question wasn't answered, but I missed it. I had asked what the family was doing time Dane was playing in the yard.
I'm sorry, Shelby, I thought we covered that with our stamp.
Sorry, we said that Dane was out playing in the front yard, but we didn't say who was home, what the family was doing, or if they were around him.
I think that information isn't something we're prepared to release at this time. We can address it based on the submission you made at a later date when we're able to.
Okay, well, sorry, there have been reports online that the family member was home, the mother, and she was actually inside. Are you able to confirm or deny that?
So thank you again, Shelby, for your questions and the rest of our media partners. This is an ongoing investigation. We're still combing through information, as well as having our partners at the Lincoln County District Attorney's Office review all the information, which is standard practice. We don't have additional information to offer at this time. Thank you.
For media who have additional questions they'd like to pose, they can come forward. She can, let's just make sure your contact information is very